Yo, Atlas speaking, and welcome back to the Atlas Fanfic channel, the go-to anime fanfiction channel on YouTube. Today I'm back with the second installment of What If I Was Reborn in Naruto as a Prodigy half Hyuga and Kaguya. If you haven't already, use the playlist above to watch the story in order and enjoy it thoroughly. The madass of the story hasn't yet begun, so get ready. Anyways, with that being said, let the tale begin. Chapter 9, Revised. Minato told us to meet him at the southern gate in 1 hour and that I would get a debriefing on the way there. We were headed to Kaguya. Our mission was to deliver proof of one Inoue Takeo's infidelity. Not a mission I wanted to do, but whatever. Kaguya was 12 kilometers from Konoha, so it would be a short hour-long trip before we arrived. After a short trip we arrived at Kaguya. The city was filled with hotels, gambling dens, and brothels. But at least the city was somewhat clean-looking. I was seated on top of a hotel where I had been told not to move from. I was waiting for Minato and Kakashi to return. It was decided that they would do most of the legwork as I would be staring at our target most of the time. Minato and Kakashi had to meet with the client, get another picture of the target, and then find their location. Then it would be my turn to stare at Inoue until something happens where Kakashi would then swoop in and take a picture. Sounds easy. Minato came back bringing with him additional news. Our target, who was the third wife of our client whom he had just married 6 months ago, she had been traveling to Kaguya and staying at a hotel overnight once a month for a few months. Our client got suspicious and wanted to know what was up. So, we were supposed to take photos of whatever happened tonight and give them to the client. Not a problem. Minato took me to the building the target was staying in, where we met up with an already waiting Kakashi. It was pretty fancy, but it wasn't a love hotel, so I guess that was a point in her favor. We decided to take residence on the roof and prepare for a long day of watching our target. Said target left to get lunch at a fancy restaurant. I told Kakashi and Minato that this was theirs and they could watch her for a while. I wasn't very inconspicuous after all, though neither were Kakashi or Minato for that matter. Sigh. Our target came back to the hotel, Minato and Kakashi trailing after her. I watched her with my Byakugan. She started to change her clothes, so I deactivated my Byakugan to give her some privacy. Our target was headed out again. Kakashi and I were staring at each other. Kakashi made a shooing motion with his hand telling me to follow her. I looked to Minato hoping he would volunteer to follow her. He also made a shooing motion. Come on. What happened to me and you not separating, Minato? He winked at me, with his index finger over his mouth. SHHHH. Alright, that works. Inoue wandered around the shopping district. She didn't buy anything, she just browsed the merchant's wares. Finally, something happened. Inoue met up with a young man, probably a few years younger than her. They chatted and laughed and strolled around the market a little more before they went to have some dinner at a restaurant. I watched them dine at the restaurant through the walls. Nothing romantic, they just seemed to be catching up. I followed both of them towards the hotel. Finally, they made their way inside and I made my way to the roof. I explained her activities with Minato and Kakashi, only getting from Minato with no response from Kakashi. I was seated watching as the duo made their way towards Inoue's room. The young man gave Inoue a firm hug and set off, leading her at the door. What, seriously? I explained what I saw to the team. Kakashi, take a picture of him before he leaves. Kakashi disappeared with a nod. Sigh. We still had to keep watch to see if something happened overnight. Nothing did. We met up with the client the next day. A tall, skinny, black-haired, brown-eyed man. We explained our findings and showed him the picture we took of the man. When he saw the picture, he laughed. Oh, haha, that's her brother Yamashiro. Ugh. What a waste of time. The client signed the mission as complete and we were off. I asked Minato about the mission ranking as we were on our way back. I figured we would be fighting bandits and missing Nin, but so far, we were still doing easy non-combat jobs. I'll go over the mission ranks that we will likely do together. Minato took a deep breath and started speaking, not slowing his pace. D-rank missions are assigned to Genin fresh from the academy. They pose almost no risk to the Genin's life and usually consist of odd jobs like farming and babysitting work. Kakashi closed the distance and got closer, likely wanting to hear what Minato had to say. C-rank missions are assigned to more experienced Genin and new Chunin. They are missions with little to no chance of combat against other ninjas, such as guarding people against bandits or highwaymen, background investigations, eliminating or capturing bandits or thieves. If we continue in that order, we might be doing some bandit extermination. B-rank missions are assigned to experienced Chunin and sometimes Genin with a Jonin sensei. They are missions that are likely to involve combat with another ninja, such as guarding important people, espionage, or hunting an enemy ninja. I ran my fingers through my hair at the mention of combat. I had wanted some experience before the war where I would have to learn from my mistakes on a battlefield. We were back in Konoha. The team split up at the gate and headed our separate ways. We had the rest of the week off. I had to go see if I got a position in the hospital. I sadly didn't. I don't know why they didn't accept my application. I clearly showed I was adept in medical jutsu during graduation, so it should be in whatever file they had on me. I wondered if some of the Hyuga elders were running interference. If so, that would be annoying. I don't have a way to figure out why I'm not being accepted. Sigh. The only thing I could do now was send another application. I made another application to work in the hospital and went on my way. I figured I'd go see my mother, as I hadn't seen her in a while. My relationship with my mother had gotten better. Though there wasn't any love between us, we could now hold conversations. We sometimes recommended books to each other and caught up over tea. We were sitting at our shibudai and drinking tea. My mother was fond of Jinmeika and I didn't have a preference, so I just had what she was having. I told her about my team. I told her about my first week of D-ranks and how I cheated with shadow clones. I saw a slight smile on her lips. I told her about my first mission and that I got to spend some time bonding with my sensei. She nodded and motioned me to continue. I told her that I got in a small fight with Kakashi and then went on another mission and that this one was as boring as the other one. She made eye contact from the table. Enjoy the boring missions while you can. You and Kakashi are extremely skilled for your ages. It won't be long before your team gets sent on harder missions. I nodded and continued telling her about my trouble getting a position at the hospital. I asked her if she could figure out why my applications were denied. She nodded. Yes, I have a former teammate who works in the hospital. I'll ask her to look into it. I thanked her, nodded, and bid her farewell. I had gone to visit Guy. Now that I didn't see him every day at school, I found myself missing his youthful enthusiasm. Said youthful enthusiasm led to us climbing up the cliff that holds the Hokage monument with only one hand. Guy was making his way up the cliff with speed and enthusiasm. I was following behind him in case he fell. Guy seemed to be enjoying himself as he was shouting, youthfully proclaiming that he would do 1,000 push-ups when he reached the top. I was not enjoying myself. My palm was getting sweaty and causing me to almost lose my grip a couple of times while climbing. I decided that this would be the last time I climbed the monument without chakra. We eventually reached the top. We both were sweaty messes, though Guy was still brimming with youth. Guy stood in his nice guy pose. Shiro! We must not rest. We must continue to fan our flames of youth. I got into my nice guy pose. How youthful! We shall fan our flames of youth brighter so the whole village may witness our youth. That's the spirit, Shiro. Guy then dropped to the ground and started doing push-ups. I cracked my knuckles and joined him. I spent the rest of the week practicing all for one and sending clones out to the Hyuga library to look for anything useful. The clones had little luck, though I had a lot of fun smashing trees and shattering earth. Soon the week was over, and I felt that I hadn't accomplished anything of note and was feeling disappointed. I made my way to Training Ground 7, grabbing some yakisoba on my way. I arrived 30 minutes early as per usual. Kakashi was sitting in a tree, legs dangling and looking bored. I walked over and offered him some yakisoba. Kakashi ignored me as per usual. Social niceties over with, I proceeded to the other side of the training ground where I would finish my breakfast and start some early morning training. I was done my stretches and was doing my third set of pull-ups when Minato arrived. How was the hospital, Shiro? There was no hospital. My application was denied, sensei. I decided to finish my last set of pull-ups while we talked. What? Did they say why? No? Should they have said something? Yes, they test you on your knowledge and jutsu use and send you out with a list of what you should work on if you're not suitable for a position. I wasn't even tested. I was never tested, I was just told that my application was denied by one of the secretaries. I finished my set and dropped to the ground. That's not how they are supposed to do it. The fact that there was no test is suspicious. I agree, and I have the perfect group to blame. Sigh. I'm going to look into it, Shiro. That's alright, sensei. If they won't have me, that's fine. I can find other ways to practice my jutsu. Minato just hummed but didn't agree or disagree. I surprised Minato using a kunai thrown with the shunshin. It did not affect him, but it earned some praise. We finished our spar and Minato told us to meet at the same time tomorrow. We went our separate ways and that was that. We met up again at the same time, Kakashi and I arriving first and Minato coming a bit later. It was decided we would do another short mission today and see how things go from there. Minato would get the mission scroll while I and Kakashi got packed, and we would meet at the base of the tower when we were ready. Minato came back scroll in hand. I had arrived first as I had a bunch of pre-packed bags ready to go. I just had to swing by and grab them. Minato tossed me the scroll and shunshined away. I'm okay then. Did he want me to read it? If he didn't want me reading it, he would have said something. I unfurled the scroll and got to reading. Sigh. I tossed the scroll to Kakashi, who had just arrived. Our mission seemed to be bandit elimination. Not something I wanted to do. Minato arrived minutes later and brought lunch with him. I thought he was angry about getting the mission or something and tossed it to me so he could leave and cool down. Turns out thinking about killing bandits makes him hungry. Sigh, what a world. Chapter 10, Revised. We sat on the roof of a building near the west gate and had lunch. My teriyaki was soured by the knowledge that I would probably have to kill some people soon. We then went on our way. Minato waved at the guards as we passed. The bandits were a team of 6 men at academy graduate level. The scroll said that they had been hopping the border between the land of grass and the land of fire, raping and pillaging, doing what immoral people with a little power do. Currently, they were in our territory, so it was our problem. Our trip was slated to take a full day, so we would arrive at night, set up camp, and start our hunt for the bandits. I was plagued with thoughts. I wasn't upset that I would have to take lives. I'd known that since I first decided to be a ninja. It was no surprise. I was unsure of what I would feel when I took a life. Would I like it? Would I hate it? Would it even faze me? I didn't know, and that bothered me. We arrived near the 3-way border between the lands of rain, grass, and fire. We set up camp. Sadly, this camp had no fire, nor were we allowed to set up tents. I had a crappy sleep. I got up and started doing my stretches. Minato and Kakashi got up earlier than me. Minato was off doing something and Kakashi was eating an unappetizing-looking ration bar. I finished my stretches and also ate a ration bar. Minato conveniently arrived when I was chewing on my last bit of ration bar. Okay, I found our bandits. I hummed and made a get on with a gesture. They set up a temporary camp and look like they're going to move it soon. So, should get them now? Kakashi chimed in. Minato nodded and gestured for us to follow as he walked away. Alrighty, time to pop my murder cherry. I sat in a tree staring at the bandit camp with my Byakugan. There were 6 bandits. 3 were sitting around a fire cooking some meat on sticks, 2 were keeping watch, and the last with the most chakra was sleeping off some wounds in his tent. Wounded enemies are the best enemies. In a low voice I relayed what I saw to the rest of the team who were also sitting in the same tree. I watched one of the bandits around the fire drop the meat he was cooking but pick it up and eat it anyway. I made a disgusted face. What a filthy animal. What did you see, Shiro? Nothing, sensei. Minato had a grim face. I think there's a misunderstanding here. I was made to scout some more while Minato and Kakashi came up with a plan. It was decided that Minato and I would run at them from the front and Kakashi would sneak up and throw a kunai with an explosive tag on it at the leader's tent. And then we would go from there. Any plans with explosions are bound to be good plans. I gave Kakashi, who came up with the idea, a thumbs up. Minato and I were sitting in a tree above one of the scouts. Kakashi was on the other side of the camp doing the same. We were waiting for the signal. Boom! That was hopefully the sound of their strongest perishing in an explosion. The scout below us looked towards the camp. I activated Chikaku no Kyoka and slowed my perception as much as possible, and I jumped off the tree and directed my fall towards the distracted scout. I pulled my right leg back and activated All for One. I continued to fall. And fall. And fall. I slowed my perception way too much. Eventually I was within kicking distance and I brought my foot down onto the back of his head. And his head exploded, though thankfully mostly away from me. I landed, then lessened Chikaku no Kyoka, closed my eyes, and took a deep breath in. And out. When I opened my eyes, the world was still in slow motion. Minato was among the group sitting at the fire, and Kakashi was still out of sight. I didn't feel any different after killing the scout, though that might change when the battle dies down. I closed my eyes a second time, and I opened them again with my Byakugan active. Kakashi was up in a tree staring at his dead scout. Minato was surrounded by dead bodies and the leader's burnt corpse was covered in the wreckage of the tent. A very successful ambush. I completely stopped Chikaku no Kyoka and deactivated my Byakugan. I still wasn't sure how I felt. We were seated at our camp, away from the smell of blood and burnt flesh. I felt dirty and wanted a shower. We sat in silence for another couple of minutes until Minato gave the order to pack it up so we could leave. We all packed quickly and set off. I wanted a shower. Kakashi might have wanted to seek comfort in his father, and I couldn't guess Minato's thoughts, though he probably wanted to get back to Konoha as well. We made it back a while after the sun had set. Kakashi tried to break from the team, but Minato stopped him. He told him that we had a 2-week break and told him that he could talk to him if he ever needed anything. Kakashi nodded and left. Minato and I were watching Kakashi go. I turned to him and told him I was going home and tried to make a break for it as well, hoping to get to my shower as fast as possible and wash whatever dirtiness I was feeling away. Minato caught me and threw me over his shoulder. "Sensei." He hummed at me. "Can you let me go? I'm taking you to my place, Shiro." I stared at him silently. Why is that?" "Kushina wants to see you." "I don't think I have a choice in the matter. I have to shower." I thought about kneeing him in the chest, but realized that it wouldn't help me escape. "That all right, I'll let you use mine." We arrived at Minato's apartment. Kushina met us at the door and pushed me into the bathroom, telling me I need to wash. I agreed I do need to wash. And so, wash I did. I felt less dirty now that I had a shower. But still dirty. I got dressed, left the bathroom, and was immediately accosted. Kushina grabbed me and brought me to the living room and sat on the couch. Kushina sat me in front of her and proceeded to play with my hair. I enjoyed the feeling of fingers running through my hair and fell asleep. I woke around midday feeling very hungry and with my hair in one big braid. No one was home, so I gathered my things and sunshined home. Now home, I took a second shower and got into a new jumpsuit. I went into my room and prepared to hibernate for a couple of days and not leave. I used my time in hibernation to think about my feelings. and still wasn't much closer to putting it into words. I didn't feel happy or upset at the bandits' deaths. I felt nothing. Indifferent maybe? Apathy is what they call it. I felt apathetic towards the bandits and their deaths. I don't know what I should have felt, but surely it shouldn't be apathy. 2 days had passed and I came out of my room. I was upset by my lack of care for the bandits, but that showed that I at least felt something. I figured that hiding in my house wouldn't solve anything and prepared to get back into the swing of things. I was in the 3rd training ground fighting 2 of my clones. And when I say fighting, I mean avoiding all-for-one punches. After being beaten by my clones, I dispelled them and created one more to take their place. I sent this one to Gale's house, and that's where he would stay, while I trained with the 2nd level of the gravity seal. I realized that I didn't like having the seal active all the time. It made me feel vulnerable. So, I decided that the seal would only be used for training. I was halfway home when my clone dispersed. Guy and my clone had done some of Guy's academy work before the clone left to bother Kakashi. And by bother, I mean the clone went to check OK Kakashi. Kakashi didn't like being checked on. So, he sucker punched my clone. Will he be more insulted that I didn't come myself? I was finally home. I had just entered my home and was met with my mother. Hello, Mother. I sent her a nod with my greeting. Hello and happy birthday, Shiro. What? Thanks, Mother. I forgot about my birthday. Here is your present for me. I was handed a box. Thanks! I tried to add some enthusiasm to my voice. I opened the box and was met with an old and thin book. So, what's this? I flipped through the pages to get a vague idea of what it was. The book contains details on Byakugan techniques used by your great-great-grandfather. I got the gist of it the same moment she said it. What's in it? I raised an eyebrow at her. She raised hers back. You can read it and find out. Sigh. Thanks, I'm going to bed, I'll see you tomorrow. I heard a sigh behind me. Happy birthday, Shiro, and good night. 6 Time flies. After a shower, I was sitting in my room reading the book I just got. The book again went over the common uses and weaknesses of the Byakugan. Nothing new. The book went over the Byakugan telescopic vision and ability to see through solid objects. The book went on about the ability to magnify and zoom. Finally, some gold. Though it only mentioned seeing tiny insects. So, I'm not going to be able to see cells. The Byakugan also has the ability to detect things through their body heat. So, infrared vision? The book finally goes on about the Byakugan's usefulness in speed reading and being used to read books from a distance. Copying books with the Byakugan sounds good. Too bad I didn't know about this when I was in Hyuga. There were probably some useful books I could have nabbed. So, some new stuff that I should have known but didn't. So now I have to train my Byakugan more so I can nab books and scrolls in the future. Am I ever going to have the time to learn any lightning jutsu? I was in the public library under a hinge testing out my Byakugan's speed/distance reading. I was seated in the Jinin section of the library and trying to read stuff in the Chunin section. And I was met with great success. It was extremely easy. If I combined this with Kokoro no Kyoka, I'd be a book-stealing machine. I was distracted by an errant thought. In Konoha, they have barriers to keep the Byakugan from seeing inside some buildings. But once I'm inside, can I use my Byakugan to read from whatever books and scrolls that are in the building? That would be a dumb flaw. But it would also be understandable if that was the case. Why would one go through extra measures to blind a friendly clan inside a building that is already protected against casual snooping? Perhaps I can get a look at the Scroll of Seals, something to try out in any case. Chapter 11, Revised. I was in the 3rd training ground, and 2 of my clones were spending time with people so I didn't have to. It was a week into my 2-week break. I had gotten a hang of the 3 new Byakugan techniques I got for my birthday and made enough progress for them to be usable. The infrared vision, which was now called predator vision, allowed one to see infrared radiation, which basically means I can now see heat. Cool stuff. Although I have no use for it now, it's always good to have more tricks up my sleeves. I also got the Byakugan to zoom into and focus on a small bug within my range. I couldn't zoom into something outside of my range. So, it wasn't what I thought it would be, but it was a neat trick nonetheless. This technique was appropriately called magnify. Again, this wasn't immediately useful, but I might run into a situation that I need to magnify something. Well, probably not, but it's always good to know things. Continuing on, I saved the best for last. My favorite, and definitely the technique I was the most excited about, my speed/distance reading technique. Now called Thief. I would have named it something different, but I'd mainly be using it to steal things, so Thief it was. I finished my training for the day and dispelled my clones. Clone 1 had gone to feed and water Guy and make sure he was alive and well. Clone 1 did its job well and rewarded itself with some flowers from the Yamanaka clan. I only wish that the clone hadn't bought 20,000 yen worth of flowers. Sigh. This is what happens when I let the clones run around unlinked. I sent Clone 2 over to Minato's apartment so he could have his hair braided and nails painted and my real body could be unaffected. Although my real body was unaffected, I still experienced the mental pain of social interaction with Kushina. Though some news did come from my visit. It seems Minato looked into the matter at the hospital and had some news for me. Sadly, the news required that I meet with the Hokage, and that was something I didn't want to do. As much as I didn't want to talk to the Hokage, I wanted to get into the hospital and I wanted to see if I could get a peek around the Hokage Tower with my Byakugan. Maybe I'd get lucky and have a peek at the Scroll of Seals. Who knew? I woke up early and did my daily training. Meeting the Hokage is no excuse to miss my youthful training. Minato and I met at the base of the Hokage Tower. We said our greetings and made our way past the receptionist and up to the Hokage's office. The door was closed, Minato knocked and the door opened. A Jonin and his Genin left and made their way past us. The Hokage waved Minato and me in. I stood in the middle of the circular room while Minato leaned against a wall. The Hokage took a hit from his pipe. He turned his head and blew the smoke to the left towards an open window. Minato tells me you have been having trouble with the hospital. That's not how I would say it, but yes. I'd use much harsher words than that, Hokage-sama. Those bastards didn't even give me a chance. Sigh. There are problems with you going to the hospital. That didn't sound like good news. The village elders are against you pursuing medical ninjutsu. Definitely not good news then. You have prodigious talent in taijutsu. The elders don't want you to waste time pursuing medical jutsu as you already have an extraordinary healing factor. I understood where they were coming from. But it also seemed like shallow reasoning at best. I'd say I'm equally talented in medical ninjutsu. My statement was met with silence. The office was quiet for a while. I was running over my words in my head, trying to see if I made some sort of blunder when the Hokage finally spoke. Even if you made an impressive show of medical jutsu and got into the hospital, it probably wouldn't end well. I was a bit confused. Was that a threat? The reason you have not been branded with the caged bird seal is because of your future fighting potential. I blinked at that. It wasn't what I was expecting. The Hyuga won't brand me because of my possible future strength? The Hokage nodded. They don't want a powerful enemy inside their clan. Why haven't I been assassinated yet? What's stopping them from disposing of me? I made finger quotes at the words disposing of. There's a lot of political pressure to keep you alive because of your Hyuga bloodline. He paused, took another hit from his pipe and continued. With the Senju clan's extinction being a sure thing, the elders want a new bloodline to take their place. Sigh. I sighed heavily. I had no idea any of this was happening. I had thought being an elder's grandson had kept me safe. If you go to the hospital and become a menin, the Hyuga could possibly take that as you being weak and lacking strength. The Hokage turned his pipe upside down and taped the ash into an ashtray. And the village elders don't want the Hyuga to have a bloodline under their control, so they have been blocking your attempts to gain an apprenticeship in the hospital. I wasn't sure I believed the whole menin being weak thing. Why would anyone think of menin as weak? The Hokage exhaled heavily. People who fail to adapt to ninja life often become menin. So, they are looked down on? So, they are looked at as failures. Ouch! So, I can't learn medical ninjutsu? The Hokage blew a heavy breath out of the nose and rubbed his head. It's not that you can't learn medical jutsu, you just can't become a medical ninja. Meaning? Meaning that I wanted to give you my students' notes to make up for your lack of a teacher. I fought to keep the smile off my face. Oh! Thank you, Hokage-sama. I began to do another deep bow. When my head almost reached waist level, I activated Chikaku no Kyoka and slowed my perception as much as I could. I activated my Byakugan a second after. I focused my attention on the Fuinjutsu barrier surrounding the office, blocking my sight from expanding. Alright, that was expected, no big deal. I looked around the room, taking note of both the root ninja and Umbu hidden around the Hokage's office. One, in particular, was staring hard at me. I took note of how much chakra the Hokage had but lost interest soon after. I focused on a bookshelf the Hokage kept in his office. It had nothing of worth, it was just a display of random civilian books. If I could have sighed, I would have, but my brain and eyes were moving faster than my body could. So, no annoyed sigh for me. I deactivated both of my techniques and kept my bow for a few more seconds before rising. The notes will be delivered to your home within the day, you're dismissed. I gave another bow and turned to leave. I made eye contact with Minato and got a smile from him. He made no move to leave, so I guess he's staying. Alright T, let's get out of here. I left the room and made my way down the hall. I activated Chikaku no Kyoka, only slightly slowing my perception. I rubbed my eyes with my palms to hide my Byakugan's activation. I took another look through the Hokage tower. Nothing I can see that's helpful. Only some more seal-protected rooms. Damn. I again deactivated my techniques. Disappointing but not unexpected. I made my exit. The notes arrived. I gave the Umbu that delivered it a nod of acknowledgement and brought the box of notes to my room in preparation for a long reading session within my bed. I was using Kokoro no Kyoka to burn as much of Tusnade's notes as I could into my brain. When I reached my limit, I would sleep for an hour and start again when I woke up. It wasn't fun, but it's what needed to be done. Tsunade's notes didn't provide many new jutsu, just the chakra transfer technique, and some vague notes on scrambling the electric signals that the brain sends to the body using lightning chakra. On the other hand, it had lots of hard-learned experience written in it and plenty of changes to the already existing medical ninjutsu. Not immediately helpful. What I need is experience. And burning notes into my brain won't give me that. The rest of the week passed and soon it was time for Team Minato to meet up once again. Kakashi looked better than when I last saw him. Minato looked alright as well, he had his usual charismatic smile. Alright team, we have a choice between an escort mission or a tracking mission. Neither. Sensei, can we do another bandit elimination mission? Kakashi and Minato were staring at me. I need to practice my medical ninjutsu. Discussion ensued and it was declared that I would not be allowed to practice on bandits. Minato recommended that I set up in any towns that we visit and provide free service and get my practice that way. That was completely fine with me. It was a better idea morally and practically. After all, why should I have to go to my test subjects when they can come to me instead? With the hospital no longer an option for me, it was decided that we would be doing 5 missions a month. I wasn't thrilled at the idea of more work than necessary, but Kakashi looked happy, so I let it be. It helped that I had more opportunities to practice my jutsu. 4 months passed, and things had been going well. I had hit a small snag in the beginning, but other than that nothing noteworthy had happened. People didn't want to be treated by a 6-year-old, so I didn't get many test subjects until the next mission we went on, where I hinged into my most used disguise of my old teacher. Then business was booming, and by business, I mean the test subjects were presenting themselves to me in droves. I had gotten some experience with my new and improved medical ninjutsu and was ready to start experimenting. I wanted to see if I could simulate a workout and strengthen the muscles without exercise. So, I had asked Minato for another bandit elimination mission. Predictably, it didn't go well, though I won our argument in the end. I told Minato that if I didn't have bandits to test some ideas on, that I'd have to use myself. That made Minato come around. Turns out holding your health and safety hostage is a good way to win an argument. Kakashi and I were leaning against a wall at the Hokage Tower waiting for Minato to get our mission scroll. I had been talking about my difficulties with my nature transformation and trying to get Kakashi to participate in the conversation. I of course had no luck and was just talking to myself. Eventually, Minato arrived, scroll in hand. Nice, I was just running out of things to talk about. Okay, at Shiro's request, we're doing a bandit elimination mission. I gave a nice guy pose. Though this mission is B-ranked and will be a little different than the last bandit elimination mission we went on. B-ranked missions meant ninja on ninja combat. Something I was excited about. I could only get so far when my opponents didn't have the chance to fight back. Minato-sensei, do we get to fight the ninja? I gave my best impression of puppy eyes. One of you will, there's only one ninja. I turned to Kakashi. Rock, paper, scissors? Something I introduced to solve arguments between me and Kakashi. Something I could also easily win with Chikaku no Kyoka. Something I let Kakashi win often to give him some false confidence. Kakashi nodded. Alright, let's go. I activated Chikaku no Kyoka. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot! I watched Kakashi's hand shift into scissors. I shifted my own into rock. I deactivated Chikaku no Kyoka. I win. Kakashi looked disappointed. Well, I'd like to think he looked disappointed, as most of his face was covered. I couldn't tell. Chapter 12, Revised. The bandit elimination mission was much further away from Konoha than our usual missions. The bandits were terrorizing merchants traveling from the land of tea into the land of fire. For this trip we would pass Otofukigai and Kenshire and then make our way to the sea, where we would follow the water until we get near tea. From then we would go to the bandits' last known location and sniff them out. We were 2 days into our mission. I didn't realize that traveling from Konoha to the land of tea was a 3-day trip. I was already done with this mission and we weren't even halfway through it. After we got there and did our thing, we would still have to travel back for 3 days. I got too excited and jumped on the opportunity to fight a ninja. If I had known I would have to spend almost a week of my life on this mission, I would have waited for another opportunity. We finally arrived. We were on a strip of land located between the Hangiri Gulf and Kanashii Ocean. The Hangiri Gulf being westward and the Kanashii Ocean being towards the southeast. And to our immediate south was the border between the land of tea and the land of fire. We had set up camp near a river. I was soaking in the river and enjoying the feeling of being semi-clean. Kakashi was setting up camp and Minato was scouting. I got less work as the previous 2 nights I had set up camp. Minato returned with bad news. He didn't find the bandits today. So that meant that our trip would probably be delayed another day. Sigh. A day later, Minato found the bandits. They were holed up in an underground base that had been made with Earth Release. We probably shouldn't be going underground with an Earth Release user. So, rushing into the base was out. We couldn't collapse the cave, as I would lose my guanine pigs. I decided that I might be able to make a better plan when I see the structure of the base. Minato, Kakashi, and I were standing in the trees. We arrived at the base. Well, I couldn't see the base, but this is where Minato said it was. Minato and Kakashi were going to wait until I got a good look at the base structure. Then we would form a plan. I activated my Byakugan and began to scan the base. The entrance was on the side of a hill. The base sloped down and expanded further underground. Oh boy! This was more than I wanted to deal with. The bandit's base was big. I couldn't see the whole structure with my Byakugan's current range. I silently jumped from tree to tree, trying to see the entire base. There was only one entrance but many shafts to let air in and out. I could see 3 ninjas. This made my winning of rock, paper, scissors, pointless. I wanted to sigh but was wary of making too much noise. This was much more than I was mentally prepared to deal with. I got near Minato and Kakashi and made a motion for them to follow me and headed a bit away from the base. So, there are 15 normal bandits, 3 missing nin, 2 high Genin level, and 1 mid Chunin level? Minato summed up what I told him. Yep. Kakashi chimed in. What village are they from? Mist. That meant that one should watch for water release and Kenjutsu. Can you use fire release, sensei? Minato nodded at me. How about we smoke them out? The plan made the 3 of us silently crept to the entrance. Minato, Kakashi, I and 3 of my clones were at the entrance. After knocking out the guard and another bandit that was close to the entrance, we piled as many leaves as we could silently get at the entrance. Minato gave the signal to start, Kakashi got into a stance short sword at the ready and I activated my Byakugan. Minato ran through a few hand seals, took a deep breath and blew a stream of flames onto the pile of leaves. His part done, he stepped back and allowed me and my clones to take over. Me and the clones alternated and sent vacuum palms at the pile of burning debris. It pushed the debris into the cave, but the smoke wasn't filling the cave like I had wanted it to. Minato ran through more hand seals, clapped his hands, and released a stream of wind towards the entrance. Wind release, Gale Palm. Sensei to the rescue. Minato continued to hold the technique. I sent one clone to watch over the part of the base I couldn't see, so it could dispel if they tried to escape. The other 2 clones were sent into the base. Hopefully, they could take care of some of the cannon fodder before they get in the way. Everything was quiet. We were still at the entrance waiting for something to happen. Finally, 2 of my clones were dispelled. They had made their way through the cannon fodder, knocking them out as they passed. The clones met up with the 2 Genin level ninja and engaged in some good old taijutsu combat. The clones were easily winning and were enjoying the fight. The 3rd mist ninja sped in and dispelled the 2 clones when they were distracted with the other ninja. Stupid clones. All they had to do was pay attention and not get distracted. Come on, they even had their Byakugan active. My clones knocked all the normal bandits unconscious. Though I'm not sure I need 15 bandits. I might have to get rid of most of them. Things were still quiet at the entrance. My other clone hadn't dispelled and the ninja hadn't come within my range. Finally, some movement, the 3 ninjas made their way towards the entrance. Sensei, the ninjas are approaching. I had figured they would stop near the entrance and check things out, but instead, they ran out not stopping and engaged with Kakashi and Minato. I of course got my own ninja. We met in a clash of blades, my kunai against his sword. A Hyuga, eh? He had both hands on his sword, which was a mistake. Yep, I popped the P. I used my left hand's index and middle fingers to poke him in the eyes. Arg! He jumped back. I activated Chikaku no Kyoka and my world slowed down. He took another jump back, trying to put more distance between us. I just used Shunshin on my right arm and tossed my kunai at him. It sailed through the air and embedded itself in his stomach. He screamed. Ouch! My ninja started trying to run away, kunai still in his stomach. Sorry, my friend, but I don't feel like a chase today. I grabbed another kunai and used Shunshin to throw it. It sailed through the air and got embedded in his back. He started screaming, then stumbled and fell. Oof. I lessened Chikaku no Kyoka and my world was only slightly slowed. Sorry about that, my aim's not that good. He didn't respond, he just kept screaming. I shunshined to him and tapped him on the back of the head with a gentle fist strike. The screaming stopped. I let my eyes wander his brain-dead form for a moment. That was extremely unpleasant. And pointless, there was no combat to be had. I focused my attention on Minato and Kakashi. They were both doing fine but had not killed their opponents. I waved at Minato. He raised an eyebrow at me. I mimed tossing something and pointed to his opponent and then pointed to myself. Minato nodded. Minato appeared behind his opponent faster than I could see and grabbed him by the back of his clothing and threw him to me. Minato turned to watch Kakashi's fight, leaving the Chunin to me. I shunshined to my new opponent who was still midair and cut the tendons in his legs with my chakra scalpels. He tumbled for a second and tried to roll into a standing position but fell on his face. I shunshined to him again and knocked him unconscious with a quick application of the anesthetic jutsu. Perhaps I should have actually fought him. So much for combat experience. I looked at Kakashi's fight again before I deactivated my Byakugan. My most important test subject secured, I created another clone and sent it off to secure 3 more test subjects and to dispose of the rest. I dispersed the clone watching the rest of the cave as well and enjoyed the feeling of a good amount of my chakra returning. That might have been the lowest my chakra has ever been. It seems I'm not good at rationing my chakra. My 4 test subjects were gathered and each had the anesthetic jutsu used on them so they would remain unconscious while I looked at their bodies. Boom! Kakashi had used an explosive note on his opponent and finished his fight with a bang. I gave Kakashi a thumbs up when he approached and then focused back onto my task. I had a few things I wanted to know. Could I simulate a workout and strengthen muscles without exercise? Could I transplant organs to other people who have lost theirs without rejection? Could I transplant someone's flesh onto someone else and can said flesh continue producing physical energy? The last one was the one I was the most excited about. I had thought of this when I remembered that Madara and Obito had some of Hirishima's cells grafted onto themselves and that granted them would release. I wondered if I could do the same with one of the Otsutsuki on the moon. Maybe that's my path to the Tenseigan. The same way Madara got the Rinnegan. Though I wondered if I needed to be a reincarnation of Hamura's son/sons to awaken the Tenseigan. I still had the problem of even getting to the moon, but perhaps I would find a solution in time. I was seated beside my first test subject. Minato and Kakashi were watching from a tree a few meters away. I figured out that I could strengthen the muscles. One grotesquely muscular arm on my first test subject was proof of such. But it was not something I would want done to myself. When I strengthen the muscles artificially, the cells divide extremely fast, which also shortens their lifespan. Not something I wanted. And not something that happens during the normal strengthening of the muscles. Normally stem cells change to muscle cells and fuse to the damaged or strained area and increase muscle mass. So, I just had to use stem cells. But where do I take them from? There were so many. The bone marrow, blood vessels, skeletal muscle, skin, and teeth were just some of the locations you could find adult stem cells. I was spoiled for choice. I got up and walked over to the other arm of my first test subject and sat down again. This time I'd try again, but with stem cells. The stem cell muscle strengthening worked as intended, but not as fast as the cell division version did. I for one didn't have an unlimited store of stem cells to pull from. And I couldn't use all of the stem cells present in one given area as they were still needed for other operations in the area. I'd still call this a success. Even though I won't have instant muscles, I could use this to grow and maintain my muscles without extreme exercise. I was hit by a thought. Was this why Tusnade was so strong? She presumably gambled and drank and didn't train in the years she took off. So maybe this was her trick? Maybe this was the reason for her freakish strength. The scene of Tsunade stopping the sword of Jiraiya's summon passed through my mind. I declared my first and easiest experiment a success. I directed a look at my first subject. He had 2 freakish-looking arms and legs. But those organs were still good. I looked at the bandits and realized I'd made a mistake. I forgot about possible organ rejection. There are so many issues with transplants. If they don't have the same blood type. Rejection. If the tissue is different. Rejection. Chakra is incompatible. Rejection. I should have perhaps checked to see if they were compatible before I grabbed them, though with chakra involved perhaps family members are the only ones who can have organs transplanted. Any family members among the bandits? I looked towards the cave only to see it was collapsed. Really? Why is the cave collapsed? It was Kakashi who answered. I kicked the missing Nin into the cave before he exploded. So he stuck an explosive note on him and kicked him away? That sounds pretty cool. Too bad I didn't see it. On the issue of incomparability, why weren't Hirishima's cells rejected by Madara's body? Perhaps the DNA of Otsutsuki descendants meshes well? Sigh. I was feeling rather upset. This trip was looking to be a bit of a bust. I couldn't test half the things I had wanted to. Swapping bandit organs seemed like pointless cruelty. I looked at the sky. I had a few hours of daylight left. What else could I do that would not make this a waste? Ah! I could look into the nerves a bit. I had wanted to find a way to improve reaction time and dull my own nerves if I had ever gotten injured and needed to ignore the pain. Course of action decided. I looked back at my test subjects. Sorry friends, I need your bodies for personal improvement. Chapter 13, Revised. My day with the bandits turned test subjects ended with little success. I couldn't figure out a way to enhance the nerves. Though I did find a way to dull or deaden the sensations the sensory nerves received. That done, I looked back to my first test subject. I blew a breath out of my nose. Going with the theme, I named my new muscle strengthening technique Kinryoku Kyoku, meaning muscular enhancement. I was still a bit of a weeb, even death couldn't stop my descent into weebhood. I woke the bandit I used the Kinryoku Kyoku on and had him punch a tree. I had wanted to see how well the muscle enhancement worked before I offed him. But his arm crumpled, and he started screaming. Oops! I guess the bones need to be able to handle the new strength of the muscles. It wasn't something I had thought about earlier, but something my test subject made apparent. I knocked the bandit out and placed him on the ground. Although my bones are plenty sturdy, if I want to do this on someone else, I'll have to learn to strengthen the bones. A stamina enhancement needed to be considered as well, though it could be put off for a while. It seems my day is not over yet. I began my new final experiment of the day. Endochondral ossification is the process in which most of the body's bones are made. It was basically bone cells forming the shape of the bones and then being calcified by other bone cells that deposit calcium to the area. So, I needed to speed this process up and use it to thicken the bones. How could I do it? Oh, I got it. Hello there, Mr. Stem Cell, I need your help again. With my final experiment of the day done, I killed the bandits with a gentle fist strike to the heart and started on my way to the camp. I heard Minato and Kakashi falling from the trees. Sigh. I wish I had planned better. I could have gotten more done than I did. I probably won't get to do this often. I after all don't want any Orochimaru comparisons. Well, I guess it's good to learn from your mistakes. We had arrived at the camp and had gathered at the fire. We were sitting in silence until Minato spoke. Shiro. Did you accomplish what you wanted to? No. Minato raised an eyebrow. It looked successful. Time to lie. Strengthening the muscles like that shortens your life significantly. I paused and took a breath. And you have to strengthen the bones as well, which further shortens your lifespan. I didn't want to be doing this all day to other ninjas after all. So not very successful? Kinda. It's considered successful if the person strengthened also doesn't plan on living for long. Minato hummed and dropped the topic. Morning came, we packed up our supplies and set off on our trip. The trip going back was the same as the trip there. That being painful and long. We passed a merchant. He smiled and waved at us. I gave him the finger and continued on. Keep that cheerfulness and goodwill to yourself. Finally, we arrived back at Konoha. We checked in with the gate guards and got through the gate fine. Minato said we had a week-long break and that he'd expected the mission report to be handed in tomorrow with my experiment included within. That was annoying but fine. I was done with being dirty, so I rushed home as fast as possible, completely ignoring the rest of the team. I had a date with my shower. I said hello to my mother and rushed past her, not waiting for a response. Here I come, shower-sama. I heard my mother sigh behind me but ignored her in favor of my long-desired shower. With my shower done, I laid down on my bed and thought about Kinryoku Kyoka. I wanted to improve my muscles and free up training time for some other activities. The problem, which wasn't really a problem, was food consumption. My appetite would be massively increased. My bones wouldn't be a problem, they seemed to get stronger the more chakra I had. I'd also have to tone down my shows of strength so Minato doesn't catch on to the fact I suddenly got stronger. Or maybe I just need to have my gravity seal active all the time. That might be the way to go. I decided that I'd think about it tomorrow. I rolled around in my blankets and turned myself into a human burrito and fell asleep soon after. Morning came and I forced myself out of bed. I did my morning routine, got dressed, and promptly jumped back into bed. Time to put Kinryoku Kyoka to use. I finished up Kinryoku Kyoka and headed to the kitchen for a snack. I was feeling hungry. Food alone probably wouldn't make up for using Kinryoku Kyoka. I might have to look into vitamin and mineral supplements. Hopefully, they exist in this world. I was in the third training ground experimenting with my strength. It had improved, though not by a huge amount. It was still almost a week's worth of normal training. Though I probably couldn't use Kinryoku Kyoka more than 3 times a week, it was good enough. Now I had more time to pursue other disciplines. I could finally get going on my nature transformation. Ninja wizardry, here I come. I was headed to Guy's. I wanted to ask about supplements and figured that Guy and Dewey would be the people that would know about them. That, and I wanted to see how they were doing. Turns out there were supplements. Though they were created by Dewey. They were little brown balls that were made from rice, various flours, dried vegetables and fruits, seeds, and various other ingredients. Dewey gave me a few as well as the recipe. I popped one into my mouth. Yuck! They tasted like mud. Maybe this is the secret to Guy and Dewey's youthful energy. I thanked Dewey for his generosity and headed on my way. I had to visit Kushina before she came to visit me. I wasn't interested in having my home invaded when I didn't expect it. I arrived at the door to Minato's apartment and knocked. Knock! 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 I waited and received no answer. I looked up at the sun and realized it was about dinner time. Time to go check the ramen stand. I arrived at Ichiraku Ramen and saw Kushina almost immediately. She was sitting next to a tower of ramen bowls. I approached and gave a cheerful greeting. Hello, Kushina. Nothing happened for a moment. I figured I was ignored and was about to say hello again when Kushina's hand shot out and grabbed me. I was promptly smothered by Kushina's one hand while she continued to eat her ramen with the other. I struggled to free myself for a moment but eventually surrendered to my fate. Eventually, Kushina was sated and returned my hello. Hello, Shiro, I missed you. I just nodded. I had already accepted my fate and was hoping I could get some free food out of this. My body was promptly turned to face a black-haired young woman. Shiro, this is my friend Makoto, say hi. Alright then. Hi. I gave a small wave to complete the greeting. Kushina was right, you are cute. Spread the word of my cuteness. Feel his hair, it's so soft. Oh. Makoto ran a hand through my hair. Yes, it is. Can I braid it? What? Why? Yes, you can, Shiro doesn't mind. She smiled at me. Right, Shiro? Left. Go ahead, Makoto-sama. Was what left my mouth instead. I should have sent a clone. Eventually, Makoto and Kushina headed home, leaving me at the ramen stand. I never got my free food. I sighed and left in a hurry. I wanted to get home and wash away the feeling of human interaction anyway. The next day I and 3 of my clones were hinged and wandering around Konoha. I was wandering around the outside of the Nara compound Byakugan active looking for unprotected buildings. There were almost no buildings protected, only the clan head's house and the library being protected from Hyuga snooping. Sigh. There were still probably books and scrolls outside the library inside some clan members' houses, but I didn't want to comb through all the houses for books that likely weren't useful. I was on my way to the Yamanaka compound when one of my clones dispelled. He was enjoying his time snooping around the Uchiha and decided that he needed a closer look at the inside of the compound. It didn't end well. A guard called him out on being a clone and dispelled him with a punch. That was fine. The clone had similar results to me. Both the clan head's house and the library were blocked from sight. So, no easy books for me. More clones dispelled as I made my way around Konoha. Most of the important buildings were protected from the Byakugan. So, no easy loot for me. The Akimichi are oddly the most protected in the village. I had a chuckle at the thought that the Akimichi were probably just protecting their recipes. I wondered why they might need that many anti-Hyuga barriers but decided to leave it. I had other things I wanted to do before my break was over anyway, no need to waste time. With 5 days left in my week-long break, I was once again in the 3rd training ground. I was seated with my back to a tree and running lighting chakras down both my arms at the same time. It was pretty painful. I stopped the flow of lightning chakra along my arms and took a break. After my arms healed, my next order of business was to see if using lightning chakra outside of the body was more effective. I was healed up enough and ready to try again. I gathered chakra on my palms and started to convert it into lightning chakra. I looked at my hands. Blue lightning was jumping from finger to finger. It was much easier to create lightning chakra inside the body. But I can handle more of it outside the body. I stopped supplying chakra to my hand. Using your element on a weapon was considered one of the most basic uses of nature transformation. So, having it outside the body was easier? I think it's time to look into some actual lightning jutsu. Off to the library, I go. I was sat in the library under a hinge and was reading some scrolls on lightning ninjutsu. It seems I have been making some blunders. Most of the techniques say that lightning chakra is made outside the body. Oops. I moved a few of the useless techniques to the side. I was against anything that required touch to activate. I wanted more ranged attacks. I was reading a scroll about a technique called lightning strike. The user creates an electric current that can hit multiple individuals at the same time. The lightning can extend incredible distances and can avoid obstacles. It only used 3 hand seals as well. What a lovely technique. Shame it wasn't named Chain Lightning, that would have been more fitting. I activated Kokoro no Kyoka and burned it into memory. A grin split my face. I was close to using ninja magic, just a little more. Turns out it was still going to take a long time to learn ninja magic. I couldn't control the lightning when it left my body. If it was on my hand it was fine, but as soon as I went through the hand seals and tried to throw the lightning it went towards the nearest metallic object. The first being my kunai pouch. And the second being my headband. I'm lucky I started small. Sigh. Ninjutsu was a huge time sink. Maybe I lack talent in it or something. I'll keep trying, hopefully it gets easier the more experience I get with it. Soon my week of freedom was over and it was time to do more missions. I was starting to despise missions. I enjoyed them at first, but lately, I've been hating them. Sigh. I met Kakashi at Training Ground 7, 30 minutes early as per usual. Want to spar? Kakashi responded with a bland no. Alrighty. Obligatory offer made, I went over to the other side of the training ground, sat at the base of a tree, and began to practice my nature transformation. Soon Minato arrived and brought good news. Okay boys, no missions this week, we're going to spar, and then you can go and do your own thing. Minato made the seal of confrontation, Kakashi and I made the same, signaling the start of the spar. I activated Chikaku no Kyoka and the world around me slowed. I started this spar with Shunshin and a 1 for all enhanced kick to Minato's back. My kick met a log. Said log exploded. Minato had used Kawarimi to swap with the log. Was that sealless, or did he do that before the match started? Sigh. These spars were never fun. I hated being outsmarted at every turn. I looked to where Kakashi was and saw him engaging with Minato. They met in repeated clashes of blades, kunai versus short sword. Let's try this again. I used Shunshin again and sent another 1 for all enhanced kick to Minato's back. I got kicked in the chin and sent flying. Ouch! I rolled to my feet and looked back at where Minato and Kakashi were. Minato and Kakashi seemed to be enjoying their fight. I'm feeling a little left out. I threw a kunai at Minato, and he backhanded it out of the air without even turning around. Sigh. I sighed again before activating my Byakugan and jumping into the fight. The spar ended with Kakashi and I laying on the ground soundly defeated, and Minato standing a distance away looking unruffled. Well done, you both improved a lot. Here comes the criticism. Shiro, you need more ranged attacks. You also need to take less damage, even with your healing you shouldn't allow yourself to be hit. Fair enough. Kakashi, you also need some ranged attacks, and you need to work on your teamwork and ability to coordinate your attacks with Shiro. Kakashi generally got similar advice about teamwork every time we spared. It never seemed to stick, and probably wouldn't change until everyone he knew and loved died. I can't wait until I can get off this team. Chapter 14, Revised. 2 more months passed. We had been out of the academy for around 8.5 months total. The war drew closer, as did the Ninetales attack. I wasn't feeling as pressured as I once was, surviving seemed doable and not too far out of my reach. Minato said I was at Chunin level and that I was only lacking experience and people skills. People skills didn't matter in your consideration for promotion, but it did help when you wanted to lead a team. My people skills being called into question came from a C-ranked escort mission that we did a week ago. We were escorting an affluent female noble to her family's house that she had planned to visit. She had decided that I was cute and was touching me and talking to me in baby speak. And just generally invading my personal space. Ah, you're so cute. Yes, you are. Why are you doing this to me? Ah, I bet all the girls in Konoha just adore you. They do, but I think it's about time you fuck off. Miss? She smiled at me. Yes, Shirokuen? Time to use my secret move. When's the baby due? She looked confused. What baby? Time for the conversation killer. Your baby? I tried my best to sound confused while I reached over and patted her stomach. Pat asterisk pat asterisk pat asterisk. Oh! I'm not expecting. Finish her. Oh! I thought you were pregnant, sorry. I bowed my head. Oh! It's alright, Shirokuen. I heard Kakashi stifle his laughter. The woman didn't speak for the rest of the trip. My secret technique did critical damage. The conversation killer has yet to fail me. And that was about the gist of the incident. I received no actual trouble from it. Though I did get a talking to from Minato telling me to improve my people skills. Other than that, nothing noteworthy happened. We didn't go on any more B-rank missions. I continued practicing my nature transformation. I used Kinryoku Kyoka a good amount and now have my gravity seal active at level 2 all the time. Life was good and I wasn't feeling the shadow of death hanging over me all the time. I had a lot of free time nowadays. Anything I needed to learn was burnt into my mind with Kokoro no Kyoka. And with Kinryoku Kyoka my training time was cut down a lot. This gave me more time to practice nature transformation. I was making progress. I had gotten the technique down to one hand seal and could now somewhat control the direction of the lightning and guide it around trees. But once it got past a certain strength, I could no longer control it. It wasn't a problem, strength would come with experience. I also wanted to drop that final hand seal. The last hand seal was used to control the lightning once it left my body. I had amazing chakra control, but it didn't extend past a foot around my body. So, what technique did people use that controlled stuff at a distance? Chakra strings. I hoped they were the answer to my current problem. So now I walked around the house and used chakra strings to pick up things and make my meals. At first my chakra strings were misshaped and clumsy, but the more I used them the better I got. When I figured out how to make my chakra strings invisible, I'd be walking around looking cool when my tea seemingly made itself. It would make quite an impression on future guests. But until then I'd continue to walk around hand outstretched, misshapen strings coming from my fingers and a look of concentration on my face. I was doing some youthful training with Gat when I had a sudden but terrible epiphany. I hadn't been doing much youthful training on my own. Could I even consider myself youthful? Do I even deserve to wear this jumpsuit? Guy! I'm not training youthfully anymore. Shiro! And I no longer try to get people to wear a youthful jumpsuit. I've started behaving unyouthfully and I don't think I can change my ways. My eyes met Guy's. Shiro! I shall fan my flames of youth twice as hard for both of us. Tears started streaming down my face. Guy! You're the most youthful friend I could ask for. Guy had tears streaming down his face as well. Shiro! Let's ignite your flames of youth by running 1,000 laps around Konoha on our hands. I gave my nice guy pose. That's a great idea, Guy. Guy gave his nice guy pose. We had another B-rank mission. This time it was an escort mission. We had to escort some rich heir to his mansion and make sure he doesn't die on the road. His mansion was located in the Keishi, which was the capital of the Land of Fire. I was packed and at the south gate waiting for my teammates. Kakashi had yet to arrive, which was unusual as he usually arrived before I did. Eventually Minato and Kakashi came into view bringing with them a green-haired, green-eyed teen. I placed the teen at 18-ish, just at the cusp of adulthood. They got closer and I figured I'd not beat around the bush. So, who wants him dead? Minato sent me an admonishing look. Shiro. What? He knows someone wants him dead. His cousin wants to be the heir and hired some ninja from Tangakure to kill him. The village hidden in the valleys? Never heard of them. Tangakure? What are they known for? Kakashi chimed in. Being ninja. Very useful, Kakashi. They known for anything else? Minato chimed in this time. About 18 years ago they destroyed Kajiro village. Heat Haze village? More nobodies. And? Anything useful? As Kakashi said, they are known for being ninja, they don't have any clans or special bloodlines. So, cannon fodder ninja, I guess? I looked at our client, he had been silent and was watching us converse. So, got anything to say, meatbag? The look of disbelief on our client's face was delicious. Shiro! I think this might be my new thing. Eventually, we set off. I figured that our client would ride in a cart or palanquin, as that's how most rich folks seem to travel. But I guess he was walking. Can our client not afford a cart? Shiro! We hadn't even gotten halfway through our trip and I was bored. I had been activating my Byakugan every couple of minutes hoping to spot a possible ambush. Sadly, it was not my day. There was no ambush. I looked at our client who was walking between me and Minato. What was his name again? What's your name, meatbag? He gave a soft effeminate reply. Ida Kichiro. I looked a little closer at Ida. Was he a trap? Or a woman dressed as a man? I had no idea. But I guess it also didn't matter. We were about done the mission. We had about 4 hours until we reached the capital. Sensei? Minato turned his head to look at me. Yes? Where's the action? Are we going to encounter any enemy ninja? Minato shook his head. Maybe not. When we were about an hour away from the capital, we finally encountered the Tanganin. Minato seemed to have detected them a while ago, but it wasn't until now they entered my range. They were both hiding underground. 2 Tangachunin 120 meters ahead. Kakashi and Minato both nodded. Our client looked frightened. Kakashi, protect the client. Shiro, you're with me. Minato veered off to the right and into the trees. And I followed behind. We were about 40 meters from the Tanganin when Minato stopped. Shiro? I raised an eyebrow at him. What's up? You should use this opportunity to fight and gain some experience fighting opponents around your level. I made a get on with its gesture. You should let your fight last longer than 10 seconds. Ah, gotcha. I gave Minato a thumbs up. Yes, sensei. I do try to end fights as fast as possible. I don't want my enemies to have the time to outthink me after all. Alright, let's go. I activated Chikaku no Kyoka at a low level. We continued our approach. Eventually, we were right on top of them. Too bad they didn't have a sensor with them. I deactivated my Byakugan. And eyed the ground they were hidden under. If I hadn't seen them with my Byakugan, I wouldn't have known they were there. Should I be learning skills like this? No, I'm not interested. I took a silent breath through my nose and stepped off my branch, charging a 1 for all enhanced kick. My heel hit the ground and the earth shattered. Boom! The 2 ninjas emerged from the ground looking shaken. Minato jumped in and kicked his opponent away. He followed his opponent off into the distance. I and my opponent spared the flying Tanganin a look. Ouch! The Tanganin nodded. Shall we start? The Tanganin didn't waste words and jumped towards me, kunai in hand. I met his kunai with one of my own. I snaked my left hand towards his face, hoping to poke him in the eyes, but was blocked. I jumped back and he followed me. We engaged in a few more clashes of kunai. I tried to sweep his feet out from under him, but he jumped and threw a handful of kunai at me. I used Shunshin on my left arm and snatched the closest kunai. He took this time to put some distance between us. I used both my kunai and the one I caught to deflect the rest of the weapons. We stared at each other and my opponent started running through hand seals. Tiger, ox, snake. Oh, the hiding like a mole jutsu. The second I had the thought, he disappeared underground. Huh! Where'd he go? I hope that was convincing enough. When using the hiding like a mole technique, the user can tell where their target is by sensing magnetic forces. I had no idea how that was done, but that's what the scroll had said. So, he would likely come to me. I stood still, a 1 for all enhanced kick at the ready. The second his hand started to exit the earth, I hit the ground with my heel. Boom! The ground cratered before giving way. My foot went through the earth like butter and hit his head. The hand spasmed before going limp. Oops! I pulled my leg and foot from the ground. I sighed. I deactivated Chikaku no Kyoka and then activated my Byakugan. I took a second to register that Minato had already subdued his opponent and had been watching my fight. I ignored him and focused on my ex-opponent. The Tanganine's head had caved in. When one uses the hiding like a mole jutsu, the earth around them changes into fine sand, allowing them to move. Sadly, it also allowed me to stomp him. Sensei, I accidentally killed him. I nudged a limp hand with my foot for emphasis. Sigh. I can see that, Shiro. Minato threw his opponent over his shoulder and started on his way back towards Kakashi and our client. I focused back on my opponent. I decided that he was a good opponent. I bowed my head, clasped my hands, and said a prayer. We may not know each other, but may you be blessed in your next life. After all, how many opponents bury themselves and save you the cleanup? I made my way back to Kakashi and Ida. Minato split off from me and told me to send Kakashi to him. I bet Minato was going to do an interrogation. I could see Kakashi and Ida in the distance. They both looked fine. It seemed there was no trouble on Kakashi's end. I gave them a friendly wave as I approached. Kakashi, Minato-sensei wants you for an interrogation. I felt a bit disappointed that Kakashi would be learning integration before me, but figured that it was fair as I had gotten to fight the Tanganine. The look of terror on the client's face at the word interrogation was also welcome. I wasn't supposed to use the word interrogation around our client. But how else would I entertain myself? I watched Kakashi disappear into the forest. I wonder if we will hear the screams. The whimper the client let out was music to my ears. Sadly, no screams were heard. Minato and Kakashi returned. Minato had his usual smile and Kakashi looked a bit ill. But other than that, they both looked normal. I figured there'd be more blood involved. Minato nodded at me and Ida. Alright, let's get you home, Ida. Ida looked overjoyed at the thought. Anything to worry about, sensei? Meaning, what did the interrogation yield? No, nothing new. A little more combat wouldn't have hurt. We arrived at the capital's northern gate. We gave the guards our ninja licenses and we were allowed to pass. Ida had some papers of his own that he showed as well. Sensei, can I go look around? No. Okay. We made our way down the streets following Ida. Eventually, we reached his mansion. The guards recognized him and let us pass. Ida signed our mission scroll and bolted into his mansion, slamming the door behind him. Minato looked at me. Wasn't me. He continued looking at me. Minato rubbed his temple. Alright, let's get back to Konoha. We would be back before nightfall. Nice. Shower Sama, here I come. That's the end of this tale for now. The third installment will be coming soon. Like the video, and subscribe to channel to not miss a upload, and comment your thoughts on the story thus far. Check out my other what if shown here. Have a great day, and with that being said, peace.